Welcome to the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. I'm your host, Derek Yoder, and with Kansas now in the rear view, the series, Xfinity, Trucks, and Cup Series all head to Darlington for what is expected to be a tremendous racing weekend. I know I'm excited with the throwback weekend and everything that's in store with all the racing from Friday night all through Sunday. So I'm really excited. I see so many people piling in on the Twitter Spaces show. And, with us being live, not only on Twitter Spaces, but this episode is also available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts as well. In addition, the NASCAR Betting Preview Show is powered by Podium Esports, where you can now see us each Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.com/Podium Esports. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel, also on YouTube. So make sure you go out and support Podium there. We have a lot to cover tonight, and I'm very excited about that. So let's just dive right into the panel and kind of get everything kicked off. By now, you know who's who on the show. We got Phil with the Full Tank with Phil podcast. We have Rory Picks, who will be joining us later tonight. Mark Harris, a.k.a. Skybox NASCAR. So really excited to chat with these boys. But Phil, I want to start with you first. You dropped a betting podcast this morning on your Full Tank with Phil podcast on Apple and Spotify. I know you're coming off a very successful weekend in the Truck Series, which we were able to talk about, as well as Cup. You had a heartbreak in the Kentucky Derby. So how are you doing?
Derek, I'm doing good. Yeah, the heartbreak in the Derby, 2 Phils just missed. But, we rebound and look ahead to the Preakness there, see if this horse can get the Triple Crown going. But, a good bounce back on Sunday, that's for sure, in the Kansas race. What a race. Just really awesome to see NASCAR bring a good race to the fans and TV, especially when they had a direct competition with F1. So, feeling good this week. I'm excited as well, like you said, about the throwback weekend and all the festivities. I think they do a good job with that. So, as a fan, I'm looking forward to the weekend for sure.
Yeah, no, you and I both. What a kick-ass weekend it was for the Cup Series, especially on Sunday. So much action, everything that you would want in a race, right? Like an exciting finish, good action all race long, a fight on pit road afterwards. It was like, couldn't have been scripted any better. So I'm really looking forward to Darlington this week. Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you. You're the host of the Laying Coin podcast and the Through the Gears pod as well. You and Rory had an OG version of your episode last week, and you put together a very successful card on Sunday, I saw as well. So how are you doing?
We're good. We're scaling back a little bit. It was needed. Derek, thanks to you. But yeah, we're getting back into the groove of things. We're changing some things up. It's the same thing every week, right? We got Laying Coin. It'll drop Friday morning-ish, late Thursday night. Through the Gears will drop Friday afternoon. And we're back up here in Chicago. I am in a hotel room. However, this time I have a hot spot. So hopefully I'm coming across clear. I got my mic up here. We're living life. So last week, incredible race and incredible racing. We got a bunch of good tracks in a row coming up. Darlington, Wilkesboro, Coke 600. I'm fired up, baby. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, you and I both. I mean, just that stretch of races we have coming up is going to be incredible. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with you a little bit here tonight, and looking forward to talking with our guest, making his guest appearance on the show is Mike Bachman. Mike is the Associate Content Editor for NBC Sport Edge. He is now the host of the NASCAR Betting Preview Show, Xfinity Edition, which will debut on Friday. A longtime fan of NASCAR and betting on the sport, and Mike, I just can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to join us. So how are you doing?
Guys, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate the opportunity here and doing well. Obviously, you spoke to Kansas last weekend. Just an absolutely incredible weekend across the board. Great storylines, great racing, and feeding into what's going to be an incredibly bountiful month of May for NASCAR. We have throwback weekend with Darlington. We go to North Wilkesboro and just, jumping into the summer stretch. Could not be a better time. So I'm psyched, man, and really appreciate you having me on here.
No, absolutely. No, I can't wait to hear all the insights you're going to share. So Really looking forward. I see a lot more people are now filing in to the NASCAR betting preview show on Twitter Spaces. If you don't mind, give us a like, a retweet, so that your followers and your fans can also interact with what we're doing here. If you're new to the Twitter Spaces, that bottom right-hand portion, it's a little messaging tab. Make sure you interact with us via that way as well, where you can, write a comment, question, or maybe even, give a little pushback to maybe one of the panel has to say here tonight with one of their plays. You never know. So I know we got Rory Picks, who is out with family tonight listening in. So looking forward to hearing what he'll have to say later. But let's dive right into everything. Really excited about Darlington. Again, we talked about all three series, and we'll break everything down. But the series, the Cup Series, that is, they're in Darlington, 1.36-mile track, one of the oldest racetracks in the history of the series. Cup practice and qualifying will be Saturday at 10 a.m. So make sure you check that. And then the Xfinity race is to follow. Just a few track history and trends, and then we'll get into some of the topics. The winner has started in the top 10, 84% of the time. Phil mentioned that on his podcast. And then 3 of the last 4 winners have come from the top 4, and 7 of the last 12 have been won by Toyota. We just saw Toyota and Denny Hamlin win over the weekend in Kansas. So do they improve on that number? And if so, who is it? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And some of those statistics were also from Eric Smith at Race Review Online. So make sure you support him there. So here's how the show breakdown is going to go. We went over the track facts. Going to hear what the guys have to say regarding their favorite head-to-head for Darlington, what their favorite finishing position prop is, top 3, 5, 10, whatever it is, favorite outright price currently on the board. And then I want to hear what their best bet and most valuable play they feel like has opportunity for you, the listener, to get involved with. And then want to hear what you guys have to say as far as the listener questions and comments go. So let's go right into it. And Phil, I'm going to kick it off with you first. When we talk about the head-to-head market, there's maybe not been as much that has opened prior to today. What have you been able to find as an advantage for the listener out there so far?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. I was looking at the usual suspects as far as the books are concerned for, the head-to-head market, and was really struggling. I mean, Caesars had like matchups that were interesting, but the spreads were just like, not the spread, the lines were ridiculous. No way I can lay like minus 150 on Eric Almirola in any given weekend. So just like interesting matchups, but the lines were out of whack. Betfred and also Wind Creek in certain states was the only one that I kind of found something that we can really go off of. So the first one that I liked, this is my favorite one, I think, of the ones that I found. It's Fade Briscoe season still.
Oh, true.
It's worked for us last few weeks. I think we were all just hammering on Briscoe, and it kind of worked out. So he's going up against Austin Dillon, and they're minus 110 each. At least it was when I recorded the pod yesterday afternoon or night. So the situation here, you start with Briscoe. I mean, you look at his finishes. He's got 1 top 15 and 4 starts at this racetrack. And, Darlington being unique, you've really got to look at past performance here. Last year, 2 starts, 20th and 27th. So, again, kind of similar to what we've been saying week in and week out about Briscoe. And the true performance ranks, I mean, from Win the Race, our guy Ryan Stevens, from last year on this style of track, or this grouping of tracks, 25th, and that's really kind of where he's been this year. It's not like he's any different than that, where you could kind of point that out and say, hey, there's something different this year. It's the same. Dillon. We talked about him last week, but he kind of won me some money a little bit last week, and on that group bet that we talked about at the end of the show. And this is another track where he's kind of sneaky. It's something that you really have to look at. I'm trying to find my numbers here now. Let me get caught up. The comp tracks, we're not really comping them too hard, but Auto Club, Andover, kind of high tire wear tracks. Briscoe's numbers are trash. Dillon's this season, if we're looking at that, just a little bit better, but at Darlington, he's got 4 top 10s in his last 9 starts. Last year, he was 9th and 17th. He's 3-0 against Briscoe head-to-head at Darlington in the last 3 starts. The Win the Race rankings, the pre-rank, before qualifying, there's an 11 spot discrepancy. And we talk about
Wow.
every week when you see that type of look, you got to give it a second look. And Dylan minus 110. The fact that these guys are even seems like a mistake. So I like Dylan over Briscoe in this one.
I don't dislike that one at all. I mean, we know how bad Briscoe's been in the 14 team, so you're going to go Dylan over Briscoe there. Mark, I'm going to turn to you next. Where have you found a betting opportunity for the people?
I also had a tough time. I did not look at Betfred nor Wind Creek or something Creek, whatever Phil was talking about over there. But I did find William Byron versus Kyle Busch minus 114. I believe that's on Barstool. So I'm taking Willie B here. And what I'm looking at, Phil kind of touched on it. Darlington is so unique. You gotta look at both the races last year, and then I also am looking at what have you done for me this season. I looked at the season as a whole. A few different guys put out total speed rankings for the season. So Kyle Busch came out of the gate hot. The first 3 weeks, the Clash, Daytona, Auto Club. He was like we were Chris Worm and I were cashing our over 1.5 wins by the fourth week. The Kyle Busch, I mean, it was unbelievable how fast he was. But it's vanished into oblivion. Okay, he's had a few good finishes, short tracks, road courses. He won Talladega, obviously Auto Club. We just talked about, but on intermediates and a few other tracks, he's been pretty bad. He's got a 10th place average total speed ranking on the season. That's every race this year. But that's thanks to Auto Club, Coda, and Bristol Dirt. Like I just said, everything else has been outside the top 10 and speed ranking. Now, at Darlington, he's finished 30th or worse the last 3 years. Definitely asterisk mark, as Ryan from iFantasy Race would say. Last year, he had a motor let go while leading, and he's had some very fast Toyotas over the years. Now, William Byron, on the other hand, has the best total speed ranking of anyone in the Cup Series this year. His worst 2 tracks, the only ones outside the top 10 that may be, Martinsville and Auto Club, 12th and 14th in total speed ranking. So I know what I'm going to get from William Byron. Last year at Darlington, he led 74 laps in both races combined. He was a Logano bumper away from winning the race. And I feel like I know what I'm getting with William Byron. I know what I'm getting with Hendrick Motorsports. And I don't know what I'm getting with Kyle Busch. So books have it even. I have the lean, the edge to William Byron here. I like his 10-1 outright number. So I'm going with the guy that I think I know what kind of product I'm going to get versus a guy that could be a 15th place car this Sunday.
Yeah, William Byron's been arguably one of the best drivers all year. So I see the reason why you would want to go that direction. So Bachman, I'm going to turn it over to you to let you close out the head-to-head market. Where are we headed? What have you found heading into the week?
Yeah, so I found my matchups here on BetMGM, and I'm also riding with Austin Dillon this week. He's minus 125 to another Stewart-Haas Racing driver. That's Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola at minus 105. Now, these guys are very similar in their statistics from this race in the last couple of years, but I just like the spot here with Austin Dillon at a track that, like Phil said, is he's very sneakily good. I really liked his performance earlier at Auto Club, and particularly on that race. And just with Eric Almirola, SHR outside of Kevin Harvick for the most part, has been treading water a little bit. And Almirola now with 3 straight finishes outside of the top 10, 13th at Kansas this past weekend. Kind of needs to find a little bit more speed. I'm rolling with the 3 here. I think the number is good, and I just like the advantage that Chevy could have on a track like this here at Darlington.
Austin Dillon, I mean, fading SHR right now, I totally get. So they obviously haven't been doing that well, and the product on the track shows, especially with that 14 team, like you were talking about, Phil, with your Austin Dillon over Eric Almirola there. I want to throw your attention, though, to a play, and this is more of a number than it is anything. It's just something that caught my eye. Obviously, when we do this, Rory's on the show, so we get 4 different opinions. Tonight we have 3. Well, I'm going to give some of mine as well, which I have not typically got to do on the show. But there was a number that I found on Caesars, and it is Eric Almirola plus 210 versus Brad Keselowski. And Keselowski, obviously, RFK running much better, but Eric Almirola, we've seen the SHR group be able to qualify well. Almirola finished 11th twice last year in this next gen or Gen 7 car. So I know they haven't been great this year, but just number alone, my eyeballs tend to go to that way. Anybody opposed that, or am I crazy? Maybe I am. To you guys,
I mean,
Phil?
I can't touch Almirola with a
I get
10-foot
it.
pole right now.
I get it.
And Brad, I mean, I might be talking about him later in a head-to-head later
Good.
on. So I understand. What was the number? Like plus two
210.
something? Yeah,
Plus
210 to
210.
beat one guy. I mean, then you're just cheering for chaos for the six. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few matchups out there that are like that. Like,
Right. Right.
if you just don't care about anything and you just want to go root for chaos, there's a few of them. Like guys head to head plus two something.
Yeah.
Somebody was like plus three something earlier in the week. So yeah, there's been some calamity the last couple races, a little bit at Darlington. So, but I wouldn't do that with a real purpose.
I haven't put anything down. And like I said, on Caesars, I just caught that number, saw that, and thought these guys are maybe a little bit more even than I anticipated. Seeing that number at Ryan at iFantasy, I see that you're listening tonight. Maybe you can get us some numbers in the message down below based off of those two. But let's move into the next portion now. And this is the finishing prop. And Mark, I'm going to start with you. What have you found from a betting edge for us in the top 3, 5, or 10 market heading into race weekend?
Yeah, first time that I've strayed away from the top 10 market in what feels like 6
Oh.
weeks. But we're going to the top 5 market. We're going Ross Chastain plus 170. I'm sure there's a better number out there. But earlier today, that's what I saw, and that's what I'm rocking with. I'm okay with that number. We're going Chevy heavy this week. Ross was arguably the best car at Darlington 1 last year before essentially wrecking himself off a 2. Darlington 2, he had a top 5 car. Made a couple unexpected pit stops that put him a few laps down. He was mired back in traffic, ended up finishing 20th. Definitely an asterisk mark report kind of guy. But this season, on total speed ranking, he's 5th. And the last couple weeks have been some of his best races and his best speed that he's had. So I'm short and sweet this week. I'm taking Ross Chastain. He had great speed last year at Darlington, didn't finish well, and has had great speed this season and the last few weeks. I expect the bow ties to be up front. I expect Ross to be up front. Another little tidbit I'll leave you with. Ross Chastain has led at least 1 lap in the last 4 Darlington races. So Ross going to be up at the front this week.
Okay, so Ross Chastain and that plus 170 number that you talked about is the best number out there at a few different options. So if you're shopping around, make sure you look for the best number available. Plus 170 on that is the best number. And Bachman, I'm going to turn to you next. Where have you found a betting edge as we look at the prop market this week?
Yeah, so I'm actually going over to the Trackhouse counterpart with Daniel Suarez in the top 10 market. He's at plus 170 for a top 10 on Caesars. That's about identically the same number as Mark there but that's about the best number that I've been able to find on Suarez. And look, Suarez is another guy that I see at value here, particularly in that Chevy. And I like his performance kind of coming in here to this high tire wear track. He was solid here in the race in the spring last year. And, I think that, Suarez has kind of bottomed out a little bit, has been flat, but 3rd place at Auto Club. And I think that it's a get right spot a little bit for this 99 team. They've got a really beautiful car this weekend. And at plus 170, I really just like that number for a guy like Suarez to potentially put his hat in this thing. Make some noise there in the top 10. So plus 170, I like a lot for Daniel Suarez.
So you like Daniel Suarez. Rye Cape, who's on the show listening in tonight, does not like Daniel Suarez. So we'll see what happens after the information that you gave us there. We'll see what happens and plays out. Daniel Suarez bit me in the ass last year in the summer race whenever he was going to go a lap down, put a couple head-to-heads against him. A rain shower popped out of nowhere. There was no rain in sight, and that got him back on the lead lap. Ultimately, I think he finished around top 10. So, Phil, I'm going to let you close out this finishing prop market. Where are we headed?
Oh, man. I mean, it's tough. I struggled this week with this one, so I ended up on the podcast kind of taking some big swings.
Yeah.
I can't. The one non-big swing was Logano, and in a top 10, he was minus 159, I think, when I talked about it. But it's at a different line now, so I don't want to preach about Logano top 10. I think it's like 175 now is the best you can get. So that's not really right. But so let's have a little fun. I mean, and in no way, shape, or form am I saying everyone should go out and bet this, but I just found this interesting, so I can get some feedback here.
Okay.
This is an absolute shot in the dark, but Michael McDowell plus 325 for a top 10. Now, I did get a text from our guy Jordan McBride from Tool Hangers, who sent something to me about how Ford. Larry Mack did a segment, I think, on Sirius XM talking about how Ford's been qualifying well, but there's something off about them, and they're like weeks away from like correcting that. So, shout out to Jordan. I get that, but as far as like just having some fun here tonight, having some conversation, plus 325 is a ridiculous number for a driver who finished top 10 in both races last year. And if you look at last year's statistics for McDowell, kind of like we were talking about Briscoe, everything's tracking the same last year as it has been so far this year on these kind of style tracks and looking at the true performance rank and everything there. So what I'm trying to say is whatever it is about Darlington, found a way. And I don't know if it's like him, like you think about how good he is at Daytona. It's like he has a way to kind of find his way through the garbage that just like spews out in front of him. Those races last year, they had cars like flying left and right. And McDowell, steady hand. He figured it out. And he did it in two different ways. Like the first race, he was in the top 15, 30% of the race, and then sneaks into a sixth place finish. And then in the second race, I don't know if it was confidence or what, but he was up there 89% of the time. So he had a starting position no worse than 16th in those two races. So just trying to draw attention to the fact that this guy did it both times last year. And if he goes out and he qualifies in the top 15 again, there may be something to it. Like we think of Daytona when we think of McDowell, maybe we got to start thinking about Darlington. We'll see. Like I said, don't throw the mortgage on it. But if you want to have a little fun and looking for a super long shot, that was a driver that I saw.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at some of his driver ratings last year, 73.9 and 88.3, only two top 10 finishes, which were his best finishes at the track in his entire career. So maybe he found something with that car. You said it was a plus 325 number, a little bit of a long shot there. So I get what you're saying. Maybe a little bit of magic for him then at Darlington. So let's move into the outright portion. I'm really curious what you guys have to say because there's a lot of differing numbers, and I'm really curious who has an opinion what way. So Bachman, I'm going to start with you. Where are you putting your money at from an outright perspective?
Yeah, well, the first guy that really comes to mind for me at this number is Chase Elliott, still at 14-1 across most sports books out there. And look, Chase Elliott's record at Darlington has been a checkers or wreckers type deal, right? But he showed that he can run up front and that he's back in ways of being able to contend and run up front. So at 14-1 for a guy like Chase Elliott, I just think is one of those automatic plays that you put down, because when do we ever get these numbers again? And the fact that the books haven't caught up to that or have seen that coming into a weekend like this, I just think that there's a lot of opportunity here for Chase to potentially get up there and get a win. I will also say another driver that I do like on here that I don't think is going to get as much love as maybe some of his other Toyota counterparts is Christopher Bell. He's still 11-1, 12-1 on Bet River, I see now. But look, Christopher Bell, top 10 in these races last year. I liked his green flag speed. He had top 10 green flag speed in both of these races last year, and a total speed ranking of he finished fifth in this race last year and had total, really nice total speed. So Christopher Bell's a guy that I like at 12-1, and Chase Elliott as well. 14-1 is certainly a look that I like this week.
Yeah, be curious to see those two guys. You mentioned Chase Elliott, obviously Christopher Bell. Normally, they're going to qualify well, right? Like we've seen Toyota, like I mentioned, the wins here in the last 12 races, and HMS has just been a rocket ship all year. So we could see that number then, that be the best number right now. 14, you said, is out there for Chase. His dad, if you're into conspiracy theories, his dad's going to be in the booth a little bit on Sunday. So there's your conspiracy theory for the week. Phil, I'm going to go over to you. Where have you found opportunity in the outright market?
Yeah, I mean, let me just echo a couple things that Mike said there. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, agree on both accounts. I mean, I think Chase's value there is legitimate, 14-1. He's got a pattern going. You mentioned checker to wreckers. This pattern would result in like a top 5 finish. So maybe Chase plus money for a top 5 is kind of a little insurance on the outright. But and then yeah, I stared at Christopher Bell for a while when I was writing up notes for the podcast. I ended up going in a different direction, but he's at a good value too. I'm
Mhm.
gonna take a different approach than Skybox earlier was kind of ripping on our guy this season, and we got Kyle Busch going off at 10-1. Now maybe you get him at a better price. I'm not saying jump on him right now, but I got my eyes on him, and I'll make the case for him. All right, Skybox, because you were kind of ripping on him earlier, and I'm looking at this from a different angle, right? Because if you look at last year, the 8 team, I'm taking Reddick out of the car for
Okay.
some of this conversation and just saying this team had it going on at this racetrack. Reddick and the 8 car, their average finish in the 2 races at Darlington was 2.5, a second and a third place finish. And that's a great foundation. The
Mm-hmm.
2022 True Performance rank in the intermediates, he was first out of everyone. So the 8 car has a good foundation of notes and things to go off of here. And then you're going to throw into the car the driver who was literally leading the Southern 500 wasn't going to be caught when his engine just gave out. So you don't think there's like a little something, little edge there too, a little human element for Kyle who wants to,
Mm-hmm.
come back and snag this in his career. I mean, I know Skybox mentioned a couple bad finishes recently, but a little bit of asterisk there. And 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s in his last 9. Driver rating was 6th compared to everyone. He was first in total speed last fall, obviously with that really strong race car. And 2022, both races combined driver rating was 4th. I mean, the dude can get it done at this racetrack. So you're going to take this guy and put him into a vehicle that was super strong. And then if you want to try to compare some secondary comp tracks, he won one of them in Auto Club. So, I mean, this season, I think there's something to cling to if you're, trying to grasp at things to throw in and make the case. So, a little bit of a rebuttal there for our guy Skybox, but I'm Kyle this week and seeing how he does, especially in practice.
Going off at 10-1 across multiple books. So, Skybox, I'm going to give you the floor next. What do you think about what Phil said there?
Yes, he's spitting facts. Like he won Auto Club, high tire
He's spitting
wear.
facts.
Okay. I can't argue with the total speed ranking from Darlington last year. I can't argue with the human element part of it. I can't argue with his win at Auto Club. But who would you rather have at 10-1 or in a matchup, William Byron or Kyle Busch? Like, I'm all over William Byron in this matchup. They're at the same outright number. I'm all over William Byron outright. That is my outright. And what kind of car is Kyle Busch going to have? Is he going to have the Auto Club car, or is he going to have the Richmond, Vegas, Kansas? We didn't really get to see a whole lot. I guess he was in the top 10 for you. What car are we going to get from RCR? We've seen flashes of greatness and we've seen dog shit. What we haven't seen from the 24 car is dog shit. We have yet to see that this year from the 24. So I'm putting my eggs in the basket of the guy. It's got the number 1 total speed ranking this year. Yes, that includes all sorts of different tracks. But anyway, Phil, we'll agree to disagree. Maybe we'll have a little friendly side wager on Willie B versus Kyle Busch head to head. But yes, I'm going with William Byron. I just said a lot of things. Number 1 total speed ranking. But I had a tough time actually landing on William Byron. I really wanted Larson for the tire compound and the comp tracks and the speed recently. But I don't like the number at 5-1. I think he opened 6.5 to 1. That was long gone by the time that I saw it. Now, if Larson goes out and he fastest lap average in practice and he pulls it, what is he, 3.5 to 1 for? Okay, well then I'll take that. All right. But I thought about Chastain, I thought about Hamlin. Some of the Toyotas have been really fast, but I kept landing back on this William Byron 10-1. I don't think William Byron should be 10-1. I think William Byron should be 7.5 to 1. I think he should be 8 to 1. He was a bumper away from winning the race last year. So I like William Byron, especially at this number. I think if he qualifies and practices well, which he has done all season long, he's going to be at that 7-8 to 1 number. So I'm confident this number is going to move, and I like William Byron to win this weekend.
So you like William Byron. You laid out good reasoning why. This actually is a head-to-head. And since you're in a legal betting state, Mark, this is a head-to-head right now on Barstool, minus 114 apiece. Byron and Kyle Busch. Maybe you both should put your money where your mouth is and put it on that matchup, or have some type of a mayor's bet of some kind for the people to kind of follow along with. I always like hearing how some of those play out. So I think you guys all illustrated good plays, good opportunities, especially with good qualifying cars, where those numbers could move, especially in a high tire wear track. So be interested to see what happens. Phil, do you want to say anything else? Should we move to the next topic?
No, I think great things there, and I don't disagree. Right, like in a matchup, I probably would default there, but in looking for an outright price, I was trying to find someone other than the guys like towards the top of the list, making a case for someone 10 to 1 with the equipment that they had last year, and what we saw flashes of this season. I thought a 10 to 1 number was a decent look. In a matchup, I would have to look at that a little bit more, but I think Mark spelled that out great. So maybe we will. Later in the week, we'll look into it, but I thought he was very well said there.
Look at that. Look at that. I like it. All right, so then let's move into the final topic here, and I'm curious where we're going, because we can go any direction you guys want. You can mention another outright. You can go head-to-head, finishing prop, wherever it is. Be as unique as you'd like. So, Phil, I'm actually going to kick it back to you, let you kick off this final topic, the best bet, best value, as we like to call it. So what have you found for the people out there listening to kind of get their money down on it now?
All right, so this is the only matchup that I've done in a while where, as far as like I've been a true believer in Ryan Stevens' website, and the true performance rank and the pre-ranks. This is the only one where I'm going with the guy who's lower, but it's just a hair lower, like not much of a discrepancy whatsoever. It's Brad Keselowski versus Bubba Wallace. And I like this because Brad is plus 100 in this matchup. Bubba was minus 130. This was on Betfred. And I needed to look into that because I was like, well, what's this about? You know, why is he plus money against Bubba? Is Bubba really good at Darlington? Let me see about that. And it turns out Bubba has a top 10 last year. He finished 9th in the Southern 500. So that made me pause a little bit and say, well, okay, let me look further. Turns out that's the best finish he's ever had at Darlington. And where did Brad finish in that same race? 7th. So, you know, it's not like this is a total mismatch here. When you're talking about Darlington specifically, I know Brad still has some of that like Penske background when we're looking at his like full slate at the track, but 1 win, 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s in his last 9. He, you know, is definitely back and forth type of driver like we were talking about Chase, and he did finish well in the fall last year. But I mean, the resume is there for Brad, and you know, looking at the secondary comps from this season, the 2 races that we've been referring to, his average finish is 7.5 so far this year, where Bubba's is just not there. So I don't really see what the books are looking at there. Maybe Bubba's been performing, you know, he's in better form right now in the more recent races that we've had. But Brad at Darlington, it's not even close. So I'm going to go with Brad at plus money on this one against someone who only has 2 top 20s in their career.
I was going to say, the fact that you can get that number at plus money is astounding because, and you laid it out, some of the finishes that Bubba's had, a 27th last May, 21st in 21, another 21st, 38th. His driver ratings are very poor in the 50s, 70s. So good call out there, Phil. I really like that. And you're getting them at plus money, BK, and RFK's on the rise. So, Mark, what about you? Where are we headed?
You guys thought we weren't going to the top 10 market.
You teased us.
We're going back to it, baby. Maybe not the usual suspects. Usually it's like the Bowman, Harvick, around even money type thing. No, we're going Ty Gibbs 2-1 for a top 10er. Okay. Have you seen the speed that the Toyotas have had recently? Okay, yes, I'm Chevy heavy. I still like HMS and specifically Larson and Byron to be the fastest cars. But have you seen the speed from JGR? And Ty Gibbs, he's just like I always talk about Austin Cindric. When is Austin Cindric going to get the speed of his teammates? Well, we still haven't seen it yet. Ty Gibbs, we have. He had 4 straight top tens a few weeks ago earlier in the season. He's had phenomenal speed, phenomenal for Ty Gibbs. I mean, I would say call it top 5 to 7 speed the last couple of weeks. Last week, he got screwed. He self-spun, got stuck in the grass. Dover, terrible pit call, whatever. So his finishes really haven't been there. But if Ty Gibbs can keep running like the Toyotas did at Darlington last year, keep running the way he has the last couple weeks, he had 4 straight top tens. He's 60-1 outright. I really thought that this was going to be the week that the books were going to move him to maybe that Bubba Wallace range, maybe that 40-1, maybe that 45-1. I was pretty shocked to see him all the way up at 60-1. So when I saw that, I immediately went to the top 5, top 10 market, and I love Ty Gibbs at 2-1 for a top 10.
Yeah, so 2-1 Ty Gibbs, like you said, he's been running much better. Had an accident last week and really kind of took himself out by not, making a ginger way or taking it easy going back to the pits. Had a driver rating at this race last year in the fall at 62.8 when he was running for 23XI. So I hear what you're saying with Gibbs. Bachman, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm also looking at the positionals here for a top 5, and I am looking at plus money with William Byron and also Kyle Busch. They're both plus 160 for a top 5, but I'm riding William Byron here for the reasons that Mark had said in comparing these two drivers. Because look, you expect this 24 team is going to qualify well, and you expect that they're going to run up front for the majority of that day. So to get William Byron at plus money for a top 5, plus 160 is a good number, and one that I would certainly like to ride. I will say, if I could throw a little Xfinity play here for you.
I like it.
Being that we'll be launching the show here this week, but looking at some Xfinity prices in the outright market, I love John Hunter Nemechek at plus 650. The fact that he is not anywhere close to Kyle Larson's number right now. He's plus 650 on Barstool, about as far as I've been able to see. But John Hunter's resume at Darlington needs no introduction. One of the best trends that I love for the Xfinity Series for this race is the last 6 Darlington races have been won by Xfinity regulars. So you got these Cup guys coming in that they do contend, but these Xfinity guys have been able to, park their cars in victory lane. And John Hunter Nemechek in a Joe Gibbs car here, ran for Sam Hunt last year, ran in the top 10, and he's already won twice this year. He's led laps in 7 of the 10 races run. And I just think at plus 650, that's a really great number for a driver that's probably going to be the top contending Xfinity guy next to Cup regular Kyle Larson. So John Hunter Nemechek, I would lock it in at plus 650, especially expecting him to qualify well and, put his car up front.
I like that. A little tease for the podcast this week, the Xfinity pod, but a couple notable names as well that are going to be in the Xfinity race. Then I want to get to some of the comments and questions throughout the listening audience, but Ty Dillon's going to be in the 3 car. Kyle Larson, like you said, he's going to be in the 10 car. Ryan Truex in the 19. And then you kind of got to go down a little bit ways. Phil, your boy, Carson Hocevar is going to be in the race in the number 77, assuming he qualifies his way in there. Ross Chastain in the 91. Has Ross been in the news lately? So a couple notable names kind of going into this week. We're going to see a lot of names in the trucks, Xfinity, and this week and next week with North Wilkesboro and Darlington as well. So want to kind of throw it out to the audience to hear if anybody has any comments or questions. Now's the time to hit that request button below. But in the meantime, any other numbers or anything else before we get anybody up here? Or what's your analysis, I should say, kind of going into this weekend? Let's look at Ross Chastain. He literally has to be in bubble wrap, right? Going around the track. Can't bump into anybody. Can't cause any conflict. Am I correct in that? A little bit, yeah?
I mean, Ross just needs to keep doing what he's doing.
I love it.
They're you could tell that they're just like, I don't know. Every time you think you have him figured out, or somebody, you're like, all right, somebody just needs to go like talk to him or knock him out or whatever, and then you get an attempt, if that was an attempt, from Noah, and then like he comes out on top. Like
Yep.
it was just like, he's a slippery guy. So NASCAR is definitely loving it. He's generating all sorts of Twitter hits for them, that's for sure. And I'm entertained, and I mean, I think Ross has a strong probability of running really well this weekend, just like he did last weekend. He's going off at 12-1 to win the race. So I'm into Ross in a few different ways this weekend too. So he just needs to keep doing what he's doing.
I'm so disappointed that we haven't seen a commercial yet showcasing Ross Chastain, because NASCAR has a guy right now that is making headlines all over the entire garage. And Phil, you and I talked about it in the truck race. We named guys that would kick his ass if they got into him on track. No, Gregson was one of them. Ryan Newman, who's coming back this week in the 51 car. Great throwback scheme, by the way, to Ryan in his first win up at New Hampshire, I believe it was. Just phenomenal to see. We kind of called those things out. So I'm glad Gregson stepped up. The 42 car has been really bad all year. So what better way to kind of get a little fanfare and get your sponsors, whether it's positive or whatever it is. So Mark, go ahead. I see you have a comment with
Listen, somebody's got to do it. Okay.
Somebody.
I wish Gregson would have at least thrown one. That sucks. But, and by the way, Mr. Gold Shirt, he deserves to be suspended, gone from the racetrack. No clue who he is, but get him out of my sights. I don't want to see him. This could have been a very big deal. Now, this is good for the sport. NASCAR has an opportunity here to market Ross Chastain. I have my uncle, who is probably less than half of an average fan. He watches 4 or 5 races a year. He's calling me when to talk about it. I got my friends that think NASCAR is not even a sport, and they're calling me about it. This is, it makes Bleacher Report, right? When was the last time we were on Bleacher Report? Probably when, by the way, Ross Chastain rides the wall. What are we doing here? We have to get behind Ross Chastain. NASCAR has to get behind Ross Chastain. And listen, more clicks, more eyeballs. It's all good. All press is good press. Run it up. Ross Chastain will have a top 5 this week, plus 170.
So I just got a text here. Who Gold Shirt is that you're referring to? He is the head of security for NASCAR, by the way. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So just so you know who that is. But let's talk about it from a betting perspective, right? When we're looking to bet Ross Chastain, we know he's fast each and every week. There's no question or even doubt, whatever track you want to go to. And Phil, I want to get to you here in a second. But how do we feel about betting Ross, especially in head-to-heads or anything? Is that even a worry to you at all? Hey, he's gotten into so many guys. Am I a little worried about maybe laying a 135, 140 minus number?
So, yeah, I'll get back to Yellow Shirt in a second. I'll answer this question first.
Okay.
I'm not concerned at all, because all last season we talked about this. When is Denny going to get him back? When is this guy going to get him back? When is this guy going to get him back? And no one ever did. And Gregson tried to slam his car into him. He's just like, shoo fly, get off of me. So it's just like, I don't think it matters at all until it does. And then maybe I'll be like, okay, somebody actually did take. But could you imagine if Ross had a good car, was running top 5, and somebody who he pissed off early in the race took him out? Like, that would be craziness. So I don't know if anybody wants that type of heat and to be thrown into this mix, because you saw they were just absorbed with it all last year. He and Denny, every press conference was, what about this? What about this? So I'm not concerned about it, because we talked about it all last year and nothing happened. He kind of backed off a little bit through the late summer months, tried to fly a little bit more right, but I'm not concerned. I like the top 5 play. I like the outright play. I like Ross this week. Yellow Shirt, think for 1 second, Yellow Shirt didn't get a message from NASCAR saying, hey, buddy, I understand. Just pretend that you're getting in the way, but don't, do it kind of like a hockey ref. I got him. Oh, okay. That's going to be his marching orders moving forward. You let the boys play. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
I hear you. Like I said, head of NASCAR security and producer behind the scenes, Gary Sexton says former FBI agent as well. So good intel there. But I think you took Mark's point. He had his hand up. I think you just stole his thunder.
I'm
right?
here.
Am I
I just
correct,
want
Mark?
to. I just want to say one more thing. I do not want to screw with an FBI agent or former. So, Mr. Gold Shirt, keep doing you. No, I just want to. I just want to pile on here.
Backtracking.
How many times have we had this conversation about? Oh, do we need to avoid Ross Chastain? Do we need to fade him? Is somebody going to get him back this week? I feel like we've had this conversation at least a half dozen times. The answer is no until we see it. Gragson tried. I mean, it was a half-ass effort, but at least he tried. I mean, we haven't seen it yet. Maybe when it comes crunch time down the road, possibly, but no, you bet him just like you would bet him previously with this out the window.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad. I'm glad to be able to, we can talk about it and at least kind of hash it out because we're all gambling on this and trying to figure out what are some of the better positions. Go ahead, Phil.
I just wanted to comment on a question that Rye had, and I don't have like a direct answer for it yet, but he brought something up around the difference in races for the 400 miles and the 500 miles and how you would attack that a little bit differently as a, gambler. I did not think of that heading into the week, but I mean, I said twice now on this show, we've had multiple guys who are good and bad, good finish, bad finish, good finish, bad finish. And I think that might actually be worth looking into to see like, okay, who's better at the 400 miles, the faster of the races, compared to the longer ones and vice versa. So good call out, might be worth looking into, if you want to dive deep into that, but I had not until, I hadn't thought about it until Rye said that.
I hadn't thought about that either. Good call out there, right? Really helps me now being able to look back at what happened more so in the spring compared to the 500 miles in the fall or the summer. So, Bachman, I saw you had your hand up. What do you want to share there? We talked about a lot.
Yeah, just one last thing on Ross. The other thing, from a betting perspective that we got to consider here is, until we've been getting Ross Chastain, I feel like at a 12-1 number consistently, over the last couple of weeks. And I mean, Ross Chastain is a threat to win anywhere. He's proved that he runs up front at multiple different disciplines of tracks and that he can get the job done. So, until that changes as well, and the market starts to adjust based on Chastain's performance or what have you, that's a whole nother thing. That's a number that I would bet Chastain, basically weekly. I mean, I basically have, but in all seriousness, I mean, there's a lot of value to be had there. And like you guys said, until action takes place, we're still going to keep doing it because Chastain's not going to change. He's going to continue to do him and run his course. Whether that means he's going to run through people, that's his prerogative. But it's a lot of talk, no walk that, happens more times than not. And until they start walking, we're going to still keep betting.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And one of the really cool elements about this show, and it is the messaging element. I want to go over a few of them now because everybody's kind of chiming in on various things. McDowell top 10 is also plus 715 on Betfred. I don't know if you can get that at Wind Creek as well, Phil, here in PA. So it'll be interesting, Rye, like you said, you mentioned about the 400 versus the 500 mile. One really cool tidbit that I saw Bird's Finger Plus, who we had on the show a couple weeks back, he was talking about McDowell. And he said, there's some of these guys, McDowell being one of them, maybe look at that top Ford number at 45-1 in a couple spots. With the Ford hasn't been great all year, and they've been struggling. And SHR is one of the biggest Ford manufacturers here in the sport. If they're struggling, maybe he's able to get up there and become the top finishing Ford if something happens to Logano and Harvick. I could see that happening. McDowell, who's finished in the top 10 both weeks or both races there. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens there. But that plus 715 number as a top 10, that's pretty damn enticing. Are you seeing that on your end, Phil? Maybe I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, I'm trying to pull it up now, but I mean, if you liked it at plus 375 or whatever I called it out at plus 325, how about double? I mean, who the hell wouldn't want that? Imagine that any ex driver, ex racetrack they finished top 10 both races last year, and you're getting them at 7-1. Like, that's pretty wild. So
that is.
I know the context is a little different, but still.
But that is exactly why we say make sure you shop around for the best line. So if that number's still available after this, I'm gonna have a very hard time not getting on something like that and just rooting for a top 10. I mean, incredible. So let's welcome on Rory Picks. Rory joins the show each and every week as one of the guest panel. So Rory, thanks for joining us. How you doing, man?
Oh man, we're doing great. We've went to the Texas Roadhouse this evening, had a stay.
There you go.
Went to putt and let the kids mess around up there for a little while, and capped it off with a little ice cream for them. And now I'm here listening to what everybody has to say. I do like the Dillon over Briscoe play. I think that's a good call out. I mean, at this point, we just fade Briscoe every week until he shows up, and that's just how it is. The Byron over KFB, yeah, speed wise, it's really scary fading KFB. He was showing some speed last week and then got tapped and spun out. So I think he was going to turn that into a top 5 day last week, but Byron was impressive too, losing a lap and coming all the way back up and actually leading the race there late. So, I mean, on a speed by week basis, I think I would lean Byron early in the week as well, because Byron tends to qualify really well, and KFB hadn't been qualifying all that great. So if you're going to get him, you get him now, because that line's only going to get bigger. So one way I would play Dillon is top 10, and I was kind of waiting till everybody dropped them today, trying to find the best number, but I see Bet Rivers has him at plus 235 on top 10. So I like that play a lot. I think Dillon excels on high tire wear tracks. So I could definitely get down with a little over 2-to-1 action on somebody that I think can be consistent, stay up there. They can minimize the mistakes, and he doesn't have to make up anything. I think a top 10 is very capable for him, especially if the race stays green. So, matchup that I like is Joey Logano over Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney has been complete shit here. I mean,
where's that at?
You can get it at a few shops. I think the best price that I seen was minus 125 on it at Betfred, if I'm not mistaken.
Betfred just coming in clutch this week, it sounds like. Betfred's available in PA, Colorado, Arizona, and I'm missing one. All right, go ahead.
Logano, I mean, it's hard to argue against his high tire wear ability. I mean, he turned in a 6th place finish last week. So he has a great crew chief. So that can kind of sway a bad car. And Joey Logano is also a good driver as far as if you can get him the track position. It seems like he can even take a bad car and keep it up there. And just like I said, Blaney's been horrible here. I mean, he's had one top 10, I think, in his whole career at this place. I could be wrong. It could be one earlier on, but I'm pretty sure it's not. 8th place finish, I think, is his best. So I definitely think Joey Logano is the way to go on that one. I mean, Blaney and them have cut down on the mistakes this year. You're just wondering when is this going to come back at a certain point. And he had been a driver that I had been liking to fade because of their mistakes. So I definitely could get down with a little Joey Logano this week. And I also like Mark's top 5 on Ross Chastain. If everybody doesn't remember last year in the spring, Ross probably had it the best car, second best car, hits a bump and spins it, on the restart there with Hamlin. So I think that's a good play. Outright market, I've been kind of hesitant on this week. I mean, I got down on some Willie B with my man Skybox. I was like, 10-to-1 with a guy that's just been straight up showing up with speed at every single racetrack. I mean, how can you argue going against a 10-to-1 price on him here, especially if he qualifies well? That's not going to be there come Saturday and Sunday after qualifying. So That's where I stand at so far this week. Oh, one other play that I do like, and this is going off of veteran experience, high tie wear. I think if they don't have any mistakes, I think Brad Keselowski top 5 plus 500. Where did I see that at?
There you go. That helps out Phil's play. Yep.
Yeah, over at Betfred too. So
Jeez.
now, and I think Barstool, if I'm not mistaken, and Bet Rivers both had the same price on them. So if you don't have availability to Betfred, you can play it there. I mean, I felt like Brad and them are, turning it around over there, and he's won here before. He's ran well here in the past, and I kind of look for veterans at this track. The Ty Gibbs, I'm skittish on. Rookies tend to not do very well at this place the first time they step foot here, and I know he has a little, the Xfinity experience here, but it's different. You're going up against a lot better drivers, and it never seems to work out really well for rookies. So I would tend cautious on that.
Okay, so maybe be a little cautious with Ty Gibbs. I want to, before I hear what anybody else here has to say, I know betting with 5 kids has been waiting for us. And one of the beauties of doing the show live on Twitter Spaces, it's like a podcast meets a radio show. Phil famously said that line, and I absolutely agree. So betting with 5 kids, floor is yours.
Thank you, gentlemen. Hey, I love this. I'm glad I just came across this. This is very cool.
Yeah.
A couple plays that I like that I saw. I just saw the Brad K top 5. I got it at plus 700 on BetMGM. I love that play. I think that's a solid play. A couple others that I'm jumping on right now. I love Eric Jones.
If I wasn't limited to pinnings over there, I would say, yeah, that's even better. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I have an Eric Jones plus 70 matchup versus Christopher Bell. If you look at Eric Jones here over the last 2 years, he's been a very, very sneak candidate. Very consistent. I think he's averaging roughly an 11.2 finish here, if I'm looking at that correctly. Very, very solid. Another matchup that I like, again, somebody already called it out. I love Austin Dillon. I got a matchup with Austin Dillon versus Eric Almirola. I like that a lot. And to me, the favorite here, I have to go Joey Logano. I'm not a very big Logano fan, but I kind of have to go where the play is due. This is kind of a driver's track, and the driver's got to be on his game. I do think you guys are right. You can't really go with a young gun here. Chase Elliott hasn't done very well here over the last couple of years. Even Kyle Busch hasn't done very well here over the last couple of years as well. So I like Logano. I'm kind of leaning forward to get off the snide and kind of get back in the victory lane. Here they've been looking very rough over the last few weeks. So yeah, I love Brad K. I love Austin Dillon. I love Eric Jones. Love Joey Logano. Another guy just to throw out there real quick is Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick is kind of another sneak play that I like as well. But yeah, no, I appreciate the time to speak, and thank you.
Of course, definitely join us again, Phil. I want to hear what you have to say in 1 second. But going back to what you said about Eric Jones, 7 top 8 finishes in his last 10 attempts at Darlington, which obviously makes him brings a lot of value to what you're saying in that matchup against Chris Bell. So go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything that he said. And talking about Logano being a favorite, I mean, you talked earlier in the night, I was saying how I kind of backed off Logano for a top 10 because he's at minus 175 now. But I mean, he was one of 2 drivers last year in the 2 Darlington races that had top 5 finish in both races. So Logano, he said it really well. Like it's a driver's track, and he's definitely the guy to go get it done. So Logano is an outright pick. I can't disagree with that if somebody's doing that.
Yeah, no, appreciate you joining. We do this every Wednesday, 8 p.m. live on Twitter Spaces. So make sure you're following the guys and what they have to say. So thanks again for joining us. And if anybody else has anything they'd like to chime in on, we have about just a few minutes left before we head out here for the night and get everybody back on their way. But a lot to look forward to when we talk about Darlington. Again, we mentioned all 3 series. Bachman, you talked about a little bit with the Xfinity. We don't have any truck odds at out yet, Phil. I just looked
Yes,
because
we
I was
do.
hoping we do. Where? Well, not in PA.
Betfred.
Betfred's coming in clutch. Betfred. So
Caesars just dropped
if you live in an,
trucks.
did they?
Yeah.
Okay, so Caesars just dropped trucks. Barstool will be releasing soon. If you live in an available Betfred state and you don't have an account yet, we will definitely make sure that we get something out there. I'll send a text here in a minute that we can get something out there to those that are wanting to sign up because they've been talked about an awful lot tonight. So we'll have to do that. But from Rory, how about this? Anything from Trucks or Xfinity that you see?
I am just looking at them, but I'm really digging the finger at plus 270 in Group A over Zane Smith, Ross Chastain, and Ty Majeski, kind of, I
Okay.
believe.
How
I
about
like that finger here.
how about we minimize that a little bit, Rory, and we just make it plus 100 over Ross Chastain
Okay.
because Zane and
Ooh.
Majeski scare me, but
Oh, yeah.
and Finger's gonna just wipe the floor with Chastain
What
this weekend.
truck is
I like
LaJoy
that.
in? Spire?
Spire 7.
Yeah, he's in the
Yep.
top 5, a little plus 250 action. We'll see what kind of backing he gets.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I'm probably all in on William Byron plus 250. I don't see nobody touching that unless something breaks.
Okay, you're saying for the truck race. Like I said, a couple guys are going to be dipping into other series. Double duty is going to be a big opportunity for us to be able to handicap that when the Cup races on Sunday. So you like William Byron in the trucks, and I haven't seen any truck odds yet in PA. I know they're still maybe loading. The traders are loading all those prices in now, so I'm curious to see what happens. Anything else, Rory, before we head out?
I'll tell you what, once I see some placement pricing, they got Bubba Wallace at plus 1,200 in that Tricom truck. Top 5 on him would be pretty juicy at plus 1,200 odds.
Yeah.
I think taking a Cup driver, putting him down in the Truck Series where he's won 5 times, pretty sure he's won pretty decent amount of times in the truck. So I could definitely see him running the top 5 at a higher tire wear track.
Yeah, that's a good call out for sure. Roy, how about this? Go ahead, plug your socials. I'll let you kick off with the first, where everybody can best support you and what you're doing.
Everyone can best support me listening to the Lay and Coin Pod, checking us out over here every Wednesday night on the Bet and Preview Show, and Rory Picks on Twitter, and basically at Rory Picks on all of my other social medias on Instagram and TikTok as well. So I appreciate Mike coming on. Sorry I couldn't be on for the whole thing and shoot the shit, but I'm sure we'll get an opportunity if I get to come on with you on the Xfinity Series show one week. So I like to talk a little Xfinity Series action with you one week. So you just let me know.
Just inviting himself
I like
everywhere.
I love that. Just inserting himself in. Thanks, Mike, for doing it. Let me be on. All right, so good stuff there, Rory. I think you're bound for a good week.
Well, I'm kind of part of this deal, so can't I invite myself on?
You are. We're giving you shit. It's all good. Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. I'll let you and Mike work it out. But yeah, I think you're due for. I think you're due for a lot of good this week in multiple areas. So looking forward to seeing how Sunday plays out for you. Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you. Let your co-host go first. So what do you got happening this week, and how can everybody support you?
Yeah, as always, Through the Gears coming out Friday afternoon. It will be out before the truck race. And Lay and Coin will be out late tomorrow night, Thursday night, early Friday morning. You'll have all day to talk about it. We got our buddy Rye Cape who's coming on, Lay and Coin. And if there's any 3 guys in this world that have zero script and also zero filter, it's these 3 guys, me, Rory, and Rye. So, Derek, as always, appreciate you. Mike Bachman, you're the man. Thanks for coming on.
Phil, I'm going to kick it over to you. I know you just dropped your pod today. We're going to work on a Truck Series pod if we can, if the odds allow it. So what do you got going on this week, and how can everybody support you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Every week, Derek, this is always a blast. Full Tank with Phil is the name of the podcast, wherever you listen to them, and at Full Tank Phil on Instagram and Twitter. Give me a follow, send me a message. Any butts you like, I'll usually blindly follow just for fun. And hopefully we can squeeze in a truck pod. I know we're kind of up against it now the time. But we'll do our best, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to just 3 races this weekend at a really great track.
Sixers and 6, Sixers and
Si
7.
Sixers, I mean, if you asked me that question on Monday night, I would have
Yeah.
said season's over,
Yep.
forget about it. And now I'm like looking into the rafters, like, where are we putting this thing? So,
Looking into the Raptors.
yeah. So,
That's
yeah,
good.
Sixers and 6 tomorrow night's a big night.
Okay, so
Thanks,
Sixers
and thanks, Mike, for jumping on tonight too. It was great hanging out.
So Bachman, I'll give you the floor, man. Thanks again for joining us. Had a lot of fun chatting for a good bit. And I know you're doing a lot over there with NBC. So how can everybody best support you and what you're doing?
Yeah, well, first, guys, appreciate you having me on. Absolutely love what you guys have done and are continuing to do with the NASCAR betting community and this show in particular. So props to you, for keeping your foot on the gas and running this thing. But as far as myself, you can catch the NASCAR betting preview show, Xfinity Pod, debut episode on Friday, and that will run every Friday for the Xfinity series. So I'm super stoked about that. My personals, you can follow me here on Twitter at MV Bachman. I'm also on TikTok, putting some NASCAR betting content out as well at the Mike Bach. And yeah, be sure to follow NBC Sports Edge, NBC Sports Bet, especially once NBC takes over the rights for NASCAR come the end of June. We're going to be cooking with gas and really excited for a lot of stuff that we're going to be putting out. So be sure to follow that. And again, guys, really appreciate you and giving me the opportunity here. Hope to chat with you soon.
It was a blast having you. I know a lot of people enjoyed it, and looking forward to chatting with you again here soon. Best way to support me is at Twitter, at Derek Yoder _ on Twitter. Follow the NASCAR Betting Preview Show on Apple, Spotify. Download so you don't miss a single episode. Like I said, we have this episode here tonight. Got trucks, got Xfinity. I do a post practice and qualifying, which I'm going to be doing weekly with Zach of Highline Betting. We're going to be going over some data there, and then I do a betting recap. But in addition, I also have the All Things Go podcast with Brian Murphy of Stewart House Racing. We just had an awesome episode with Matthew Dillner last night, a historian in so many different ways. Great time talking with him, so make sure you follow that over there. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy all the throwback and everything that is NASCAR this week. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Don't forget that day, guys. It's a big day. Flowers and all that. So have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy Darlington. We'll catch you next week for North Wilkesboro in the throwback of the All-Star race.